Well, I'm sure you found that very interesting. We were streaming as we were setting up the studio, but anyway, everything should be normal now, I hope, and we will get underway. The bumper's running, we're recording and streaming well again, and JD is standing by. We will count down to Studio 13, starting about now. Okay, that was interesting. Welcome to pjnet.tv. Some of you have no idea what just transpired, but we were actually streaming the entire time that we were supposedly getting the studio ready, so who knows what was said or not said. Anyway, we're back, and JD is here, and we're trying to pull this off. I've got a few little loose ends to reconnect, and JD is standing by out there in the Texas, but let's see, you're not dressed in your wool suit and overcoat and long handles and all that. You're in a short sleeve shirt. Are things getting back to normal weather-wise?
Oh, yes, sir. We've had a couple of days in the 70s already this week. All the snow's gone. All we got left is a few mud puddles, a few 100,000 mud puddles, but that's about all that's left of the terrible winter storm.
Well, not a moment too soon. We were 77 here in Florida today, and of course, we were down to like 30, and that constitutes panic in Florida. If school was in, they would have closed the schools, I'm sure. And
it was funny. Tuesday before last was -4 when I woke up, and this past Tuesday it was 78. So yes, there's quite a difference.
Well, I bet not only are the cattle grateful, JD himself ought to be kind of grateful, because you had some tough. That was a tough road to hoe, buddy.
Those were long days, going out checking on the calves and making sure everybody's still alive and nobody's frozen or fallen through the ice on the pond or anything. Yes, sir. Those were some long days.
Okay. Well, I always enjoy chatting with you about the experiences on the Cross W Ranch, but you're back in form now. You took a little break from it to do some very special things that we're all grateful for, and you shared them here. But this week on your blog at jdwininger.com, we're back to the good old stories of what is it you said? The ranch is your spiritual schoolhouse or something like that.
That's my classroom. Yes.
Classroom, yeah. Classroom.
God's classroom.
God's classroom, and I enjoyed what you shared, and I can't wait to kind of uncork some of that.
All right.
And we'll get it right. So tell us, what did you learn this time from the ranch?
Well, I don't know how much I learned new, Coach. I felt like God was just reminding me of something that's very important in a Christian's life. And it all came about after Lulu Bell had her twins here, about a month ago now. And she had Emma and Rose, the little twins, and they're doing great now, by the way. But it's funny because whenever a calf is born here on the ranch, everybody just Mama gets away to herself as best she can to birth her child. Of something that's very important.
Never mind that noise you hear. Okay.
Okay.
I'm checking on a technical problem that we're having. I don't know if we've got it solved or not. We actually started streaming early and I stopped. And I'm worried that when I start the new stream that's not going to get picked up. But anyway, I just didn't mean to interrupt you, but the speaker was on by default.
That's okay, Coach. So anyway, what typically happens is the mom is about to give birth. She goes and tries to find the most private place she can. She gives birth, and Lord willing, everything goes nice and easy and naturally, and she'll immediately after giving birth, she stands up and starts to clean off her calf and get everything cleaned up because of predators and things. It's just natural instinct, and then she immediately starts lowing, or she's putting out little calls and making sounds. And the little calf learns her mama that way. So it's bonding time, I call it. And after about an hour, at 15, 20 minutes, I should say, the little calf gets up, if everything's right, and nurses its first time. And once it learns to move a little bit, it can be mobile. Mama takes it off someplace secluded and gets away from everybody. And after about an hour, one at a time, it's funny because it's kind of a procession. It just line up tail to head, and they'll all go over and they'll stop, talk to Mama for a second, and it's almost like, can I see your baby now, please? And she grants them permission, and they put their head down and they just talk to the little baby, little calf, and they give it a lick or a kiss, if you will, and give it a good sniff and let it sniff them. Mm-hmm. And then they move off and they go lay down maybe 20, 30 feet away. But it's funny because they create this security ring, if you will. They create a ring around Mama and the calf. And they're all facing a different direction. Now, they do that naturally because that's the way they guard for predators. Mm-hmm. They've got a tight 360, if you will. Mm-hmm. And
set up a perimeter.
We've got every angle of attack covered, And but it's just neat to see that procession and that interaction and the way that happens. And I just call it the welcoming. Mm-hmm. And it's something, I don't know, I've seen lots and lots of times. It always works about the same way. But it just struck me, last month, man, why don't we do that with people that come to the Lord? Once you're saved, they get a handshake or a hug or a pat on the back and an attaboy. A couple of weeks later, they get a Bible and a baptismal certificate, if you're Baptist like I am.
And an envelope to put your offering in. Yep.
Yeah, and of course the bookmark's the tithe envelope, right? But it just amazes me. After that, it's basically a pat on the head and off you go. Mm-hmm. And I remembered back when I was first saved. Of course, I'm 15 years old, so it's been a long time ago. The Ten Commandments were still written, or the Bible was still written in stone at that time. But I remember, getting a new Bible for Mama and Daddy, and I just knew that I had to read the whole thing. And of course, I started Genesis and go to Revelation. And after about 3 days of trying to read this, I'm trying to understand who are all these strange people with all these strange names and doing these strange things. And what am I supposed to do now that I'm a new Christian? Nobody ever told me that. Mm-hmm. And it would just... It's as though the church expects new converts to pick this up by osmosis. Mm-hmm. The problem is if they tell you to do as I say, not as I do, mm-hmm. is what they're telling you. Because if they say, well, just watch the elders and the deacons and things, and I won't say this about everyone because there's some wonderful Christian folks in this world. But if the solemn deacon on Sunday morning is the same guy you saw walking down to Clancy's Saturday night as he staggered to his car, that's not the example you want to set, folks. But the fact that the cows, and they'll take turns, the different mama cows will take turns babysitting, or the nursery. So all mm-hmm. the calves they'll gather all the calves together, and one of the cows will stay. And these calves mind that cow. I mean, they'll listen to her. Mm-hmm. Babysitting 101, right? Mm-hmm. But that happens. But the fact that they care and they welcome and they nurture and they support and they take care of, why don't we do the same thing with new Christians or Christians that are struggling along their journey in faith, Coach? I just wanted to ask that question this week. It seems like, the church has become this great clique, just a secret society, and you have to figure out your way to get inside the inner circle. And it shouldn't be that way. We should welcome them. We should invite them to be a part of our family of God, right? That's part of the song we used to sing. Yeah. But I don't see that happening so much. I don't see discipleship happening in a church like it ought to, Coach. And I just wanted to get on my soapbox a little bit this week and share that. If animals have got the good sense to do it, why don't we? We're supposed to be the greatest creation. We're the ones that can reason and have rational thought. And we do just the opposite, don't we?
It seems it does. Before I forget, a couple weeks back, you were talking about hi-hat, and
Yes.
Either we didn't have enough time, or you didn't take a breath where I could jump in there and say it. But the theme here, folks, is if God speaks to us in so many ways, and this is why I love having JD as part of the PJNet team, because clearly the Word of God is the written Word of God. That's okay. But God speaks in so many ways. I mean, the account of what you've just heard, you referred to it as natural instincts. Well, where did those come from? They didn't learn those in science class or anatomy or biology. God just put, and you see the care, the love, the nurturing, and the social part of it. Oh, anyway, hi-hat.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch animals like I do, geese in particular, when they're on the land, walking around, and you'll see them, they got these long necks. So when they're feeding, you can see that little loop of that neck. So we're not going to talk duck butts here. We're going to talk about goose necks. So they're all feeding except one. One's got his head up. Looking around, because everybody else got their head down. And then sooner or later, another head will pop up, and then his head will go down. So they literally rotate the watch amongst the flock there. And that is a way for God to speak to me, saying we got to watch out after each other. We've got to bind together. We got to work together and take care of one another. So, folks, God speaks in so many ways. Now, JD's ranch, I'm thinking about the procession, as you called it. They take turns. Now, it was not in the blog, so I just wanted to ask the author directly. How do we determine the pecking order in line? And is there any, like, hey, I want to be up at the front. What am I doing way back here? I'm
Coach,
next.
It's a great question, Coach, and I can't honestly tell you that it's always the grand dam. Francis or number one, my first cow, is always the first one in line to go greet and things. It doesn't seem to work that way at all. It just kind of random order. What I will tell you is that in the 2 years or the two calving seasons that I've had Maverick, he's always the last one to come over. Daddy is the last one to
Maverick's
come over.
the bull.
Every time.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. It's a guy thing. I
it's
guess.
a
I don't
guy,
know how it goes.
JD, honestly, again, God speaks to us. Men will behave themselves for the most part at a baby shower, but no, we're not interested. We'll go outside, and even if you don't smoke, you'll go outside with the smokers, just to get some male bonding in, and
but he doesn't nurture. He tolerates the little calves running around because they hightail it everywhere.
Oh yeah,
and you understand the concept of hightailing, don't you, Coach?
You wrote a blog on it. I now am the authority on that. The takeaway in that is, all right, go line up a dozen humans at a grocery store. You're going to get some anxiety. You're going to see some defects in humans. You know, I can remember on, you know, when you go on a cruise and you're in port and you're ready to go home, you've got an airplane to catch. Well, the cruise, they don't just pull the ship up to the port and just open the doors and say, y'all head out. They give you colored luggage bag, you know, tags. So you put your luggage in, and then they'll announce on the speaker, those who had yellow tags will now proceed to the customs area. Well, of course, people have their tags on them, and I will see people with colors that are not being called. You know, like, I want to reach up there and grab them saying, who are you? Who are you that you think you get to go first? And what kind of lesson are you teaching your children about how we're going to get along? When, you know, it's like when people come up, there's a 5-acre parking lot there, and some people feel like they have to park their car right in front of the store that they're going in. And I'm just outraged. You know, I mean, I guess if I never have anything to do and get bored, which isn't going to happen, I'll just sit in a parking lot and watch for that and just start calling the police. You know, or I'll just I'll just hire a tow truck. Hey, let's make some money. You'll come out of that store, where's my car? And you know what? If that happened, they would be indignant. We are incredibly defective, JD. We are just beyond repair in so many ways. But I think the real deeper point that your blog caused me to reflect on is that you're right. There is quite a bit of effort to create believers, okay, to salvation, evangelism, and of course that's good. Okay, but let me speculate as to why. You can count salvations, you can count baptisms, you can count offering. You can quantify it. Okay. How about discipleship and spiritual growth? How do you measure that? Well, churches are lowercase c, okay, organized religion. Okay. In effect, is a enterprise, and there are evaluations always being done. You know, how are we doing? It's our nature. You know, what's the scoreboard look like? How many baptisms? How much offering?
Membership
how much
up or down?
Attendance. You name it. Yeah. But I think we're asking the wrong question. Okay, the Great Commission, by the way, does not directly mention evangelism. It does directly mention discipleship.
That's right.
We might just have it backwards.
You reckon, Coach? It's and that's why Satan has such an easy time. If we don't give new Christians that solid foundation, that solid footing to stand upon, to build their faith upon, Coach, then, you know, it's easy to crumble and fall away, right? A house built on sand.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to your blog. That newborn calf is most vulnerable.
Yep.
New Christians are most vulnerable. We need to circle up the wagons.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wonder how many ask the same question I asked as a teenager. What do I do now? And, and I'll just ask the chat room. I'm sorry I can't ask our friends watching on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, but just in the chat room, how many of you, when you were saved, were given a Bible reading plan that said, welcome to the family of God? You should consider, daily Bible reading is important in spiritual growth, and you should consider starting with the Gospels, and then read Psalms and Proverbs, and then go to Deuteronomy, and then go here and this. How many of you in the chat room got a Bible reading plan when you started? How many of you attended formal? And I'm not talking about Theology 101, like I wrote in the blog, Coach. You don't have to go to seminary, but how many of you got instructions in how to find things in the Bible? What I got is what I called in my blog, I got pregoed because people really didn't know the answers to the questions. So they said, it's in there. Just look, honest,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a thick book. It's in there.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, great. How do I find it? Well, there's a thing called a concordance. And there's no table of contents. It says, if this, then that, right? Or when this happens, go here. There was no guidance like that. So you had to find your way through it. You had to search your way through it. And it's good to dig all through the Bible, but when you're in a need situation and you're having a crisis of faith, I don't need to try to go through the concordance and the study Bible and the cross references and go to 6 different books and then read 3 commentaries to try to figure out what is God telling me to do here. Lord, I need an answer. But if you've got no one to call, if you've got no one to lean upon to guide you through that, then you're in trouble, aren't you? And that's when Satan goes, boy, this ain't all it's cracked up to be, is it? Remember how much fun you used to have doing this? Yeah, and off you go. But that's why we make it so easy for Satan to disrupt a young person's walk in faith, Coach, because we never give them a solid foundation to grow from.
I'll see your bet and then I'll raise you one. Okay, that's good advice. But I would say we could do even better than that. It's one thing to say, here's a list of, here's a good, go through the recitation you just went through, start in the Gospels, go to Psalm, and that's good advice. But better yet is say, you know what, we got a group that's going through this. Come join us, come hang out with us. And take them under your wing. It's one thing to give them a list of here's the instructions. Go do it. Versus we're doing this together. Come join us.
Yeah, very true. And that's something more churches need to do is have a formal discipleship program. And not everybody is meant to teach, Coach. We all have different spiritual gifts. But there's lots of ways that you can support your church's discipleship program. There's lots of ways you can do things to support your own family's spiritual growth. Like I said in the blog, I'm kind of looking at myself on that one, right? How many times, I start spouting or talking about this or that, and it's kind of like I yelled cookie at a dog. They just kind of cock their head, because they haven't got there yet. Well, that's not their fault, but it is my fault if I don't take the time to explain that parable or that story or whatever to them, right? That's on me. That's not their fault for not getting there yet.
Okay. Well, I agree, but I will see your bet and I'll raise you one.
Okay.
Yes, not everybody is gifted with being a teacher. So first, let me do my rant on some teachers, not all. But some teachers will be in front of a Bible study class and say, well, I'm not really a teacher, I'm just a facilitator here. And I want to just yank their head off and spit down their neck and say, no, you are a leader in a very important mission. If you think you're not a teacher and you're just a facilitator, then you are not taking your job seriously enough. That would be my, Now, I never publicly say that. Well, I said it. I don't challenge them on the spot.
The thoughts there. The thoughts.
So I think that we need to get away from this notion that if you are a teacher, that you are a leader, and people are looking up to you. And I think you need to up your game. I don't think we're here to see, well, what do you think that means? It doesn't matter what I think it means. Okay. All right. Just had to get that off my chest.
That's okay.
But I agree with you, JD, that everybody's not given the gift of being a teacher, but I do sincerely believe that anybody can be a mentor.
Yes, absolutely.
So you may not can speak, but you can be a mentor.
Yes, and in this, I've been blessed with a long life so far, Coach, and I've learned some hard lessons in life. And if I can help somebody else by giving them an easier path, then that's what I'm supposed to do, Coach. As a mentor, my job is to share what wisdom or knowledge and gifts that I have with other folks. It's not to impress them with how much I know, but it's to help them have an easier journey in their path.
Well, I trust that what you said was full of great wisdom. My wife just called and I panicked thinking there was an emergency.
Yes, that's all right.
And I was told that she has some soup or something on the stove to turn it off when I come to bed. I thought, you'll be up when I come to bed. Why don't you turn it off? And check the time, okay? I said,
you know what? She's the wife. She takes precedence, Coach. Sorry.
Chicken broth is all it is. We got one of those rotisserie chickens, and I'm cutting it all up, and I'm looking at all this juicy, fatty, greasy stuff. And I'm thinking, man, that would mix up with the dog food, and I'd probably like it, but I know the dog would. But no, she's going to make soup out of that, I'm pretty sure. But
all right.
Well, anyway, I wanted to kind of follow up on something on a different topic. As many of you know, PJ Net is embarking on an extremely steep climb up a mountain against a headwind. And we're going to take this in very, very small steps. So we're going to build a 3D animated model of the Cross W Ranch. Okay.
How about that?
We had this the other night. I showed a very, very primitive model of the gates, and they open and all that. Well, little did I know, I purposefully opened one gate at a time. I could have easily made them both open at the same time. But I thought, well, eventually we're going to have JD walking up to it and pushing the gate out and then walking over and pushing the other gate out. So I wanted to do it that way. Well, darn it, I got one thing right. The when you're going in, the left gate opens first, but that has nothing to do with JD.
No, sir. I thought that was pretty amazing. I got to watch your animation demonstration, and I went, well, Lord, how did he know that the left side of the double gates opens first and closes last? I have Mighty Mule openers. Each side, each panel of that double gate weighs about 900 pounds, 850, 900 pounds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's heavy steel. You're not going to drive a car through them, Coach. Mm-hmm. But and they were built that way purposely. But the left side will open or start, and it gets about halfway open, and then the right side will start and open, and then when it closes, of course, the right side closes first, and then the left side follows up. So just a master-slave opener relationship. And I'm going, well, how in the world did Coach know that, Lord? He didn't open that. I thought that was pretty neat. Just perhaps divine inspiration or dumb luck, whatever fits. I choose the former.
Well, we are. I've completely destroyed that model. That was done hastily, very primitively. But I'm just really excited about the possibility. I was having a conversation with someone whose child is a gamer, and they were talking about how immersed that generation is in the gaming experience and how realistic everything is. And it's because it's 3D. It's not just animated. It's 3D. And so so we're starting with simple solids. My first one was actually a 4x4x8. It took me hours to make a single 4x4x8, but I could do it a little faster now. But then we're going to, we're just going to build the solid objects. The barbed wire is next on the list. Now that I've got a fence post, I can start constructing a fence. So when I'm all done, hopefully we could be like flying in a drone over it visually because the camera is in fact a drone. It can be manipulated.
Oh,
really
cool.
excited, not only because, I just wonder sometimes, why is it that the church, or organized religion, I should say, is so far behind when it comes to technology and some of the possibilities. Uh, you know, anyway.
Are you looking for an opinion here, Coach, or what?
Well, it's yeah. Tell if you have one. Tell me.
Well, and this is purely my opinion, Coach. And my experience is that most church leadership are the old gray bearded fellows,
Hmm.
and we're a group that is pretty set in our ways, and we're kind of resistant to change. And young people are too busy listening to rock music and doing things to really add any great value to things. So we discount the thoughts and ideas of young people, and I think that's entirely the wrong thing to do. We need some of those fresh perspectives and new ideas, because if we keep doing it, Einstein's definition of insanity, keep
Hmm.
trying to do the same thing the same way with the same results. That's kind of insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So if our church is stagnant and not growing and things, why do we continue to do the same things the same way year after year after year and wonder why it doesn't work? Now, that isn't to say that I think church should become a rock concert and be a hip theatrical production every week. There's definitely a place for more contemporary worship music and praise, but there's also a place for the time honored traditional hymns and things too. When the invitation is given, I expect to hear an invitation song. I don't expect to hear, nailed to the cross,
Hmm.
and deep bass drum beats and things. Yeah, it. So I think what the church fails to do, Coach, is balance the new and fresh ideas of young people, and look at it that way. And we just rely upon what we've always done before, and that's why we're so far behind in technology and things. And there's a lot of churches that have great technology and great capabilities with cameras and sounds and lighting and all these things. But those are the exception and not the norm. And I
Hmm.
just think that when you look at the adoption curve, and you understand what I'm talking about, technology
Hmm.
acceptance, Coach, you got the early adopters, and
Hmm.
then the mainstream, and then
Hmm.
those that lag behind. And the church is always on that
We
downward
always
hill.
seem to be on that lagging edge. I've actually given
Yes,
this
sir.
some thought, not in terms of the church, but in terms of politics, and the two are they're kind of on parallel tracks. So I think the point can still be made. Let's think of the church as a conservative group. Okay, we're basically conservatives. Well,
Okay.
what is the literal definition of conserve? To conserve the way it was, so it will not change. Now, so here's the tightrope. Here's the challenge, and I think we can win this challenge, but we're not trying. But here's the challenge: what I am totally unwilling to compromise, I will conserve at all cost the message. There can be no compromise in the message.
To the
None.
Word of God. That's
There's
right.
again, my opinion or what I think doesn't even matter. All that
No,
matters is the truth.
yeah.
But
God's
if
Word
we
is
don't,
truth. That's right.
the culture around us is evolving, mutating constantly. If, young people prefer to communicate by text, well, then why aren't we texting? This blows my mind. You go into the worship service, they got the big screens up there now. Of course, that was a big controversy. What's that doing in here? That's going to get in the way of the pipe organs.
Hmm.
And there'll be a sign up there. Please turn your electronic devices off. If I were the pastor, I would stand up and say, "Do you have one of these? Turn it on." Turn it on.
There's a Bible app that'll help
Right,
you
because
find
we
it faster.
we got something for you here, okay? Because you can text in your questions and your comments. I mean, there's ways, to make church an interactive experience. And if the younger generation wants to communicate this way, well, we have a choice here. We can say, well, that's stupid. You are going to come in here in we've got to have one in the stained glass windows and sit on the pew and be quiet, be still, shut up, and listen, and sing the old, and eventually they won't. And we'll die off, and now the stained glass windows, the sunlight will shine beautifully through them into an empty room. The people will be like a BB in a boxcar. It's like, what happened? What's wrong with our kids? Well, I think maybe that is the wrong question. What's wrong with us?
Yeah.
There's nothing evil about a phone. There's nothing evil about a computer. There's nothing evil about...
You can request turn your ringer off or something like that, Coach, because I've been in the pulpit when somebody gets a telephone call. I just recently experienced that.
I just experienced it a minute ago.
Okay,
all right.
And
all right.
And that can be disconcerting. It can stop you in your tracks.
Okay.
So turn the ringer off, folks.
JD.
Yeah. So that's a valid request.
I'll see your bet and I'll raise you one.
Okay.
So how about the crying babies?
Crying babies don't bother me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's not disruptive.
Babies don't bother me.
Okay.
Telephone calls bother me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Answering telephone calls bothers me even more.
Yeah.
No offense, buddy. Please.
I remember one time we were having
not
prayer.
During the sermon.
We were having prayer, and my phone went off. So I just pressed the answer button and let them join us in prayer.
Okay, that's all. It's one way to stop it,
Well, they didn't sell
on
that.
The iPhone, you got to double click the power button or something. It sends it directly to voicemail.
Yeah, well, but I'm sure that whoever was selling that extended car warranty was grateful to hear that they're being prayed for and prayed about.
There you go. Yes.
Okay. Well, JD, it's been so much fun. I'm going to stay up all night. My next, I'm redoing the gate, doing it correctly, molding, the solids together, not just shoving them together, and sculpting it out. But we got to put reflective surface. But that'll be pretty easy. I've gotten to where I can do that. Okay. Now I'm going to take that logo. Oops, right back there. Yeah.
The brand,
right? But there's the 14-foot high, entrance
header. Yes.
Right. So I'm going to make that thing, out of shiny, and what I can do is literally put a almost like a powder coat appearance to it, and color it. But at the same time, I can make it as glossy and mirror and reflective as I want to. So that when and I can move the sun. Not only can I move the camera, I can move the sun. And boy, watch that thing's going to be rich. So I'm doing all this to learn. It's taking these little baby steps, but the day's coming.
I don't have a picture of this, Coach, but as you've noticed, my gates run north-south, so east-west faces on the brand, and I've caught it a couple of times in the evenings when the sun is in the west, so the sun is behind my brand, and just a perfect alignment with that brand. The sun comes through and it casts the cross W shadow right in the middle of the county road that we live on.
There you go.
I've never gotten a picture of that, but I'm going.
Well, it only happens one day a year, it happens perfectly one day a year for exactly about a minute, and it would probably rain that day if you knew when it was going to be. It would be no sun.
Yes,
But I'm looking forward to it, JD. It's going to be quite an experience, but I'm looking forward to what God has in mind, to take his message and put it in an envelope that our young people can immerse themselves in and become a part of. and and not compromise the message, but present it in a way. And this is, by the way, Satan employs strategies. He doesn't approach us and say, "Hey, would you like to burn in hell for eternity?" No, that's not how he works. He kind of lures, So we need to be luring. We need to be gentle as doves, but crafty as serpents, or whatever. Cunning as serpent.
I like your takeaway, Coach. We don't need to change the message. We need to change the medium.
Yeah,
so how is
exactly.
it delivered? I like that, Coach.
Right.
That's a great thought.
The medium is the message, and people used to say, "I don't like this," contemporary Christian music. Well, actually, I heard this. I didn't make this one up, but it really hit me when the guy said it. There is no such thing as Christian music. There's no such thing. There are Christian lyrics.
Okay.
Think about that. The music that is set to has nothing to do with it. It's the message.
An arrangement of notes, isn't it?
Right. It's just a style of music. So, so I'm thinking, let's look at the styles that the culture is adopting, which way they're going, and we're behind already. But I would like to think that we as Christians, and specifically PJ Net, more specifically myself and my walk with the Lord, is we need to be pioneers in leading the culture, not following the culture. We need to. There was a day when the church was the opinion leaders. When there was a crisis of something, they would look to the church as the authority on what should we do. Right.
Yes.
So when are we going to become more the center of the culture? Right now, they are pushing us out with reckless abandon.
Yeah.
And I don't like getting pushed around. And I think that we need to be the ones calling the shots in the culture, because after all, I don't say we're right, we're not. God is. And that's irrefutable. That's not negotiable. That's a given. So, well, had a fun time.
Let's make sure when we get together at church next time and we see somebody new saved, do more than just shake their hand and say, "Hey, welcome to church. I'll see you next Sunday." Invite them. One of my readers, you may know Miss Jeannie Waters. I loved what she wrote about. They were a young married couple, going to a new church, and there was another young couple that was established at that church, and they just took her and her husband under their wing, and they went out to dinner, and they introduced them around, and they spent time with them, and they helped them get acclimated to the new church and the way things were done there and different things. And we should do that with everybody that comes through the doors, shouldn't we, sir?
I'll see your bet and I'll raise you one, JD. I agree. We should not just say hello, we're glad you're here. Put that hook in them. Look forward to seeing you next week. And right after we say the amen, come on down to the Dairy Queen for ice cream and a coffee. And bond with them. Take them under your wings. It's not enough just to tell them, but mentor. Everybody can be a mentor. I think of all the things we've talked about, that's the one that God's got on my heart. Is everybody cannot be a teacher or should not be a teacher. It says so in the Bible.
Yes, sir.
But everybody
Coach,
can be a mentor.
We've kept the class pretty late tonight.
We sure have.
15 minutes over already.
And I'm gonna be up all. I gotta build that gate again, and I'll be up all night doing that. But JD, it's always a pleasure, and I just love shooting the bull with you, and we'll do it again next week. Appreciate it, bud.
Enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone. God bless.
All right, folks. There. Wrap up. It's Molly Jo, after we went off the air there. She said, "Oh, hi." Over there. She said, "Where'd the time go?" And that's the way I feel. I mean, what we do here is such a joyful and wonderful and fulfilling experience. It's the best kept secret on the dang internet. It really is. And I enjoy the time we spend together. And yeah, some nights are better than others, and some nights just don't, but I get it. But, life's that way too. But, overall, over the years, we have all become bonded and close friends, and we've become a family. And I appreciate my PJNet family. It's just so dear to my heart when I get texts from you of encouragement. Just today, got an email of encouragement from JD. Just out of the blue, and those things are so important. So let's take time. Let's remember to be an encouragement to one another. So, all right, well, it's time to go. I want to, before I leave, always like to challenge whoever might hear this to ask themselves 2 questions. Here's the first one: what is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And the second question is, how long ago was that? Let's not be satisfied with either answer.